good afternoon and welcome to Channel 1 Lunchtime News. My name is Jacky Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter this afternoon is Simon Karutha. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you this afternoon, and to kick us off, it is the former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku alongside Juma Fadhili, who have been charged on 5 accounts of corruption, who are appearing before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi over irregular procurement amounting to 244 million shillings at the State Corporation. Now we join our reporter Serafina Robi at the Milimani Law Courts for more details.
Indeed, a very good afternoon, Jackie. We're coming to you live from the Milimani Law Courts here in Nairobi, where we're bringing you matters justice from the Milimani Law Courts. And right now, as you can see behind me, there's a defense hearing that is ongoing before Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi. And earlier on, we had a case that we're following up that involves the former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku and an officer who used to work at the Kenya Ports Authority, who is called Chigulu, who are appearing before the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, whereby yesterday the DPP, the office of the DPP, ordered for their arrest over graft allegations. But today they appeared before the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, and they were read out 5 counts, which include abuse of, one of them being abuse of office, the second one being a willful failure to comply to laws and regulations of procurement, the other being engaging in a project before going through the main fundamentals or details of the project, and the other being conspiring to commit corruption by fleecing the county coffers up to about 1.4 billion shillings, as it has been indicated today in the charge sheet, whereby it's mentioned that between the months of 29th of March 2019 and 22nd of August, the office of the former managing director, who is Daniel Manduku, approved for the procurement of concrete barriers that add up to a sum of 1.4 billion shillings before approval of the budget, among other charges. Well, the court will reconvene at 2:30 so that the chief magistrate who is Lawrence Mugambi, will be giving his ruling. Earlier on, before were able to see the lawyers of the accused persons, who are the former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku, and the other officer of the Kenya Ports Authority is called Chigulu, appearing before the Chief Magistrate. And their lawyers, one of them being Nelson Harvey, just trying to convince the court that they can be released on reasonable bail. But prosecution also had their matters on, and before defense giving their details or explaining as to why the accused person should be released on bail not exceeding at least 500,000, given matters of COVID-19 that are happening right now, and also matters of bail, saying that it shouldn't exceed about 500,000. Well, prosecution was able to say that they should, if they are to be released on bail, then the bail or bond term should commensurate to the charges that the two accused persons face. Also, the prosecution was able to say that if they are to be released on bail or bond, their travel documents should their travel documents should be taken by the court and also be restrained in traveling also. Well, the court will reconvene at 2:30 as we await to get the ruling of the Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi, after the two took plea earlier on in the morning, pleading not guilty to all the accounts. Back to you, Jackie.
Well, thank you so much, Sarfina Robi, joining us from the Milimani Court, bringing us to speed on the case whereby former Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku alongside Juma Fadhili are appearing before the Chief Magistrate, whereby they have been charged on 5 accounts of corruption. Well, we shall be bringing you those details later on in our subsequent bulletin. Now, we move to the Senate chambers, where the KEMSA management is appearing before the before the ad hoc committee on COVID. I understand that that story is not ready. We shall be bringing you that in a few. So now we move on to whereby the Council of Governors are cautioning against the political interference in 73 million shillings graft case against Migori Governor Okoth Obado. In a statement, the Council of Governors also warned the court to depart from the jurisprudence set in the past of having governors charged with graft locked out of their offices indefinitely, arguing it interferes with operations at the county.
A day after the Migori governor and 10 others, including his 4 children, were charged with 28 counts of economic crimes and ordered to remain in custody until Monday, when the bail application case will be heard, the Council of Governors want investigations into the matter conducted in a manner that they say conforms to fundamental concepts of justice and equality. In a statement, the governors argue while they support the fight against graft, the case should be devoid of political interference. They want the matter adjudicated fairly and expeditiously to ensure uninterrupted service delivery of Migori residents. COG also urged county officials to adhere to the principle of public finance. At the same time, they urged the courts to depart from past jurisprudence of having governors charged with graft-related cases blocked from access to their offices. Separately, High Court Advocate Joy Adala is challenging the government to expedite the enactment of the 2/3 gender rule in Parliament. Adala urged political leaders from across the divide to show goodwill and enact the law.
The goodwill of objectively discussing the 2/3 gender rule and making it achievable for our Parliament. Yes, they argue that women have to be qualified, that they cannot dish out these positions to us, but the Constitution is clear on the affirmative actions we need to take as a country, and so we only pray and hope that the political class will have an attitude change or mindset change on the issue of 2/3 gender rule.
Meanwhile, Rift Valley Council of Elders patron Gilbert Kebage has warned against rushing into a referendum to amend the constitution, saying politicians are pushing for changes out of selfish interests.
Mwananchi wa kawaida anastahili kuelewa na kuhamasishwa kwamba uzuri na ubaya wa BBI ni huu. Hajui.
His remarks follow a pronouncement by the president that it was time for Kenyans to head to a referendum and to review the current constitution.
Well, thank you so much for that report. Now we move to the Senate, whereby the KEMSA management is appearing before the Health and Ad Hoc Committee on COVID. Now let's listen in.
Capital, and we have the World Bank funds. So it is true, and it's yes, we involved the board.
When, Chair, I think the officer is avoiding the question. My question and our question is, at what point do you involve the board? After you spend the money, after you award? I know the board is not the one that's supposed to award tenders. There is a tendering committee, but the board is the policy. Are they aware exactly what monies you're spending, on what, on who? Are they part of that decision? And then you award the tenders after they're also aware, and then you come back to them. At least they know how much money you are spending, on who you have given the tender, the so-called rich billionaires, COVID billionaires, or whatever. At what point are we talking to the right person on this, or is it just the secretariat? It certainly then is not the board. The board are just informed, like we are being informed.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. I think that's a very clear question, and I want you to answer that with my earlier question. Did the board authorize you to commit KEMSA? And that commitment that went above the budget, was the board in the know? I think that's a similar question, and a very direct question, I think.
Yeah, so the answer to this, we didn't get an approved budget for COVID.
Well, those are live pictures coming from the Senate chambers where the council management is appearing before the Health and Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19, whereby it's being probed on the COVID funds. Now, moving on, Mandera Governor Ali Roba has faulted the third basis revenue sharing formula for counties as proposed by the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Roba says the formula would lead to further underdevelopment of arid and semi-arid counties that have suffered marginalization for years. Mandera County is set to lose 1.8 billion shillings if the new formula is adopted.
The Commission on Revenue Allocation's proposed revenue sharing formula is based on 10 parameters, health and agriculture being top determinants. CRIES says the proposed formula aims at enhancing service delivery, promote balanced development, incentivize counties to optimize capacity to raise revenue, as well as encourage prudent use of public resources. But critics of the proposed formula, including Mandera Governor Ali Roba, say under the arrangement, marginalized counties will be left behind.
For a region that has lost, I want to take an example. CRA's proposal is extremely ridiculous, and it's important that this is known. CRA has based virtually everything on population and neglected landmass. And CRA has proposed in health 17% of the revenues to be given, of what comes to counties to be given based on population of number of persons who have accessed outpatient services from health facilities and inpatient services from health facilities as contained in National Health Information System. Now, that is as ridiculous and as evil sounding as telling these marginalized counties, you know what? Yeah, for the first 50 years, we've denied you resources. And now moving forward, we will penalize you for denying you the resources.
Governor Roba, who is the chair of Northern Frontier Counties Development Council, argues ASAL counties inherited a poor health system, and therefore number of people visiting health facilities in northern Kenya are few compared to other counties that have enjoyed robust health system since independence. Wajir, Mandera and Marsabit counties stand to lose the most in the new formula, as each county will lose at least 1.8 billion shillings if the plan is adopted by the Senate. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Well, thank you, Kevin Washira, for that report. Now we move to different matters whereby the top party leadership and membership of the BBI team of experts are currently meeting. All the 47 ODM county chairpersons for a brainstorming session at the Gracia Gardens on Dennis Preach Road on matters BBI and the impending referendum. Let's listen in.
Sasa tuko tayari na tunataka kuanza kumobilize wafuasi wetu kuona kwamba hii BBI imepita vile inatakikana, na tunataka kuona kwamba 2022 uchaguzi ukipigwa kutakuwa na vita, itakuwa uchaguzi wa amani, unapiga kura ukurudi kwako. Kwa hivyo hawa ni wenyekiti ambao wameweka hizo resolutions ambazo wamepitisha siku ya leo, na tutazifuata na tutaenda mtaani tuanze kupeana hayo majambo.
Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Well, that report brings us to a fast break here on Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Get ready for Kenya's greatest concert ever to celebrate our country at this time of crisis and fear. One stage, 30 artists. On Saturday, the 29th of August at 8 p.m. at All Saints Cathedral. Kenya Ni Yetu, a concert of hope and victory. sponsored by Stanbic Bank and supported by the Media Owners Association, because we care for Kenya. The show will be live on yetolive.com, KISS TV, Citizen TV, K24, NTV, KTN, KBC, Switch TV, CAS TV, and TV47. Supported by Hot 96, Capital FM, Radio 44, Three Stones Media, and Family Media. Remember, it's this Saturday, 29th August at 8 p.m. Join us.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
What are you doing here? Really, Jess? You're wasting your time. I'm not coming home. This is my father's house. Actually, it's Millicent's. Leave.
Sikuwa nimeongea na Miss Jazz, acha tuone kama utarudisha job. Yenyewe liko yenu wa Mungu. Baraka yako, baraka yangu.
You know you and Dad have an issue to solve, yeah?
Sinaweza kujea huyo dad tu.
Be patient.
Lakini
Kamau, be patient.
Eda nyumbani.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Alright, is that you?
It's me.
The number of women killed is not 375. The real number is probably closer to 5,000.
5,000.
Some girl escaped.
This girl was attacked, strangled, buried, and left for dead. And she crawled out of her own grave. She wants to find the guys who did this. I will not let anything happen to you. And I will find this man. This is an important story.
Your story is destroy her. And they will kill you.
Welcome back. Now moving on, political leaders remain divided over the implementation of the 2010 Constitution 10 years after its promulgation. The divergent opinion coming amid sustained voices to review the document that celebrated its 10th birthday Thursday.
We had a very nice constitution, but the problem has been implementation. It has had so many roadblocks, and up to now, the gains that we had made through constitutional reforms have been plowed back.
The presence of county government in the remotest parts of this country and sometimes in the so marginalized areas has brought relief of a government that provides services to people who otherwise have always been saying we don't have a government. That is the singular biggest thing this constitution has achieved.
Since the advent of devolution, we've had very serious dry spells, but we have not had mass death of livestock as it used to happen as a result of lack of water and lack of pasture and such other issues. The issues of peace building and the devolution has also brought cohesion integration within our communities to levels unprecedented before.
So we got those decision making now was transferred, that Kenyans, Samburus can make decision on their own. Or know what else they are them. They can divide their money, even if it's little. If 3 billion, 800 million, they can decide on their own. Assembly can also make laws, and we appreciate this constitution. It has really given us an opportunity to make a decision on our own.
Democratic setup. If you look at the 2010 Constitution, it was heavily borrowed from the US, it was heavily borrowed from the UK, and this is developed nations. And this is a constitution that was now supposed to work to a developing country. So it is kind of suffocating us in terms of even the resource of implementation. That's why people are crying that can we implement this fast, because it is suffocating our democracy. Implementing it is actually very expensive to our economy. So
this constitution has done very many good things. For example, it has one of the best human rights
provisions in the constitution, in fact, the largest in the whole world. I don't think there's any constitution that has got that human rights sections like our constitution. And the other thing that Kenyans demanded and the court was devolution. People wanted devolution.
We have made many strides as a country, but we also have had setbacks. So even as we celebrate the Constitution, we also take cognizance of the fact that there are areas within the Constitution that are yet to be implemented fully. And we hope that moving forward, we'll be able to implement these areas so that we may better our livelihoods as Kenyans. And one of the areas that is really key for implementation that the Constitution has not really lived up to is the two-third gender rule, whereby there's a requirement under Article 81 of the Constitution that every position should be occupied by at least a third number of women in any position, especially elective positions.
And away from that, Wajir County Governor can now rest easy after County Assembly members agreed to drop an impeachment motion against him. This comes as a section of youth from Kitui is accusing Wiper Party of undermining Governor Charity Ngilu's leadership and plotting an impeachment against her and the county leadership with no basis.
Following hours of talks in a meeting held in Nairobi, Governor Mohamed Mohamud appears to be off the hook from a planned impeachment motion against him. The leaders say that after tabling their grievances to the reconciliatory team set to arbitrate on the matter, they had reached a compromise, hence their decision to drop the impeachment plans.
When that issue actually was brought to the public limelight, we subjected it to discussions, and finally, the member who filed in consultation with other members from the County Assembly decided to unconditionally actually withdraw.
There were pertinent issues raised that has resulted to the motion. The governor has agreed to address and make effects, and for that matter, we as members of the County Assembly have agreed to withdraw the motion.
The Wajir County Governor promising to ensure that the grievances that had occasioned the motion against him are addressed, even as he pledged to continue serving the people of Wajir.
Those grievances by the MCS are going to be addressed, and we will ensure that these grievances will not recur anymore. Then we are bound to ensure that we improve the lives and conditions of our people. So I want to assure everybody that this will not be repeated.
Meanwhile, a group of youth drawn from Kitui County is accusing the Wiper Party leadership of frustrating Governor Charity Ngilu by undermining her leadership. The group says that the area county assembly members have deserted their mandate to the people and are focusing on filing impeachment motions against the governor and her executive without a basis.
Ile mambo ambayo inaendelea Kitui, kila wakati impeachments, kila wakati sijui nani amefanya nini. Governor kwa miaka yote ambayo amekuwa akifanya kazi, hakuna siku amewahi kupewa pesa mapema.
Hatukuchagua MCS wawe kila siku mtu akiamka anaongea tu kuhusu impeachment. Kuna mambo mengi yanafaa kufanywa hapa kwetu. Shida Ukambani ni maji, kuna barabara, lakini sasa ukiamka asubuhi unasema eti lazima huyu aende.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Heavy rains in Baringo County have left a trail of destruction, with at least 15 schools in Baringo County being cut off as a result of flooding. The flooding comes after Lake Bogoria and Lake Baringo burst their banks. Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, touring some of the affected schools, pledged to have the schools relocated to higher grounds to ensure learning is uninterrupted when schools resume.
These are the sights and scenes in Baringo South. The effects of torrential rains visible for all to see following weeks of rainfall. In the latest flooding incident, more than 15 schools in Baringo South have been submerged and are inaccessible. The schools, namely Salabani Secondary School, Ngambo Girls, Lake Baringo Secondary School, Lake Bogoria Girls, Ngambo Primary, Salabani Primary School, are inaccessible following the swelling of Lake Baringo and Lake Bogoria. Speaking during a tour of the affected schools, Education Principal Secretary Dr. Belio Kipsang said when learning resumes in January, the ministry will relocate the schools to higher grounds.
And I can assure all of us that the government will ensure that no child is disadvantaged because of natural calamities. So we are going to have our team and our colleague in the Ministry of Environment so that they can do an assessment and be able to adequately advise us before we can go into the exercise of rebuilding the schools.
Baringo South Member of Parliament Charles Kamuren raised fears that learning will be disrupted in the constituency following the heavy floods, urging the national government to immediately relocate the schools.
Because of corona. But we don't know now. We saw recently the CS saying something might happen. And Kenyans are really very happy. But we are worried as Baringo South when our 5 schools are submerged to water and the schools is about to open. We don't know what will happen with that population of that schools.
Lake Baringo has been experiencing an increase in water levels since 2013, affecting locals as far as 6 kilometers from the lake. For Channel 1 News, I'm Emily K. Buddy.
Now, the partial restriction of movement across Kenya and Uganda appears to have presented a nightmare for persons living with HIV. In Busia, the closure of the border has locked out over 200 Kenyans living with HIV who are finding it hard to access their antiretroviral drugs in Kenyan facilities in Busia and Budalangi.
The coronavirus pandemic has brought with it a host of challenges resulting from strict control measures aimed at containing the spread of the contagion. Countries have brought with it its dire consequences to patients living with HIV in Busia and Budalangi.
As it multiplies, it usually mutates.
The Busia County HIV and STI coordinator Constance Owere disclosed that they have been forced to collaborate with Ugandan government, security personnel at the border and Busia County government to deliver the medicines to affected groups. Whereas saying many patients had stopped taking their ARVs since they could not access them, posing a threat to the fight against the scourge.
Guidelines zetu za Kenya hazifanani na za Uganda. So inafika wakati kuna vitu zingine zenye hatutumii sahi, Uganda bado wanatumia kama kupima viral load. So pia hiyo ni changamoto ambayo bado tunafikiria ni nini tunaweza fanya ili wagonjwa wetu ambao wako Uganda pia waweze kujua kiwango ya virusi zao kule Uganda.
According to Were, quite a number of women who are in polyandry relationships and have partners both in Kenya and Uganda are yet to disclose to their spouses their HIV positive status, posing a challenge in the control of the virus. Principal investigator at Kisumu Kemri CDC, Grace Amboya, revealed that they have 2 ongoing studies that involve a set of mosaic antigen which are generated via computer to be able to create a vaccine that is effective to a broad range of HIV strains.
We also have another study known as the Mosaico study, and these ones are involving a set of mosaic antigens which are generated via a computer, just to be able to create a vaccine which is effective against a broad range of HIV strains.
Moya says RV144 vaccine has shown 31.2 efficacy, which is much lower than the universally agreed 50% and is thus not effective against prevention of HIV transmission. Yusufar, Channel 1 News.
Oh, thank you so much, Yusufar, for that report. Now, moving on. A subcontractor at the proposed Likoni floating footbridge project is protesting what he says is illegal termination of his contract. Evans Momanyi says that the contract termination was as a result of conclusion from unscrupulous individuals, as his company was shown the door just as his company was just about to complete the task at hand.
It was business unusual when a subcontractor at the proposed Likoni floating footbridge project received a WhatsApp message late at night informing him of the termination of his contract. Evans Momanya, subcontractor at the China Roads and Bridge Corporation, the main contractor in the project, says a number of employees such as security guards, maintenance, finance and transport workers had been rendered jobless by the move.
Now they have terminated my contract through WhatsApp, through not even bringing to our office, through WhatsApp. They have been intimidating me. Man has exchanged hands, trying to intimidate, trying to chase us from the office. Some of my staffs There are nursing injuries. Some of them are accused on various platforms.
Documents in Momanyi's possession indicate that he had entered into a one-month agreement subcontract signed on July 16, 2020. The work, which commenced on 18th July, was to end on 16th August last week. In a letter dated 19th August, signed by the project manager, the subcontractor was directed to immediately demobilize all his personnel and equipment from the site. Momanyi alleges that the contract termination can be attributed to the collusion of the company with unscrupulous individuals.
The same people went to court and obtained a court order and wrote to the manager of Gulf Bank to temporarily terminate the Sakawa agency project account, and neither are they signatory to my bank account. Secondly, the CR12, I'm the only signatory, and also CR12, I'm the only director on that company. A briefcase organization which has intimidated parastatals in Mombasa for many years. We must ask the government to prove this organization.
Momanyi at the same time dismissed the alleged letter indicating 2 of the workers had been fired following the misappropriation of funds and gross misconduct. He pointed out that since the project commenced, they have had to incur losses amounting to more than 6 million shillings, adding that they have faced a myriad of challenges such as lack of disposal sites.
Even if they are foreign contractors, the Public Procurement Act of 2005 should apply to everyone, including foreign contractors. They cannot bring me on board and ask me to do a contract when NEMA is on my neck not to proceed with the work. 14 days that we spent. I cannot do a project at the same time where I'm supposed to dump those materials. Kibarani, it is no longer a dumping site. I must get a place so that that material can go there, and I get somebody who has a certificate for NEMA to do that.
Away from that, the Boda Safety Association of Kenya is calling on players in the subsector to register with the Boda Information Management System in an effort to enhance security. Association's national chair, Kevin Mubadi, says the system that was launched recently by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i and his ICT counterpart Joe Musheru seeks to reduce cases of motorcycle theft in the country.
According to Boda Safety Association of Kenya National Chair Kevin Mubadi, over 30,000 riders had registered with Boda Information Management System 2 weeks after the system was launched. He said the country had close to 1.3 million Boda riders.
Tumejitolea na tumesema kwamba tutasimama na serikali na kusupport government all the initiatives zenye wanajaribu kufanya, na ndio tuweze kuinua uchumi wa nchi pamoja, kwa maana sisi ni wengi.
He said the system would make it possible to know how many people are in the Boda business, their ages and gender, so that the government can lay strategies of serving them better.
Kitu ambacho nataka kuomba wana boda wote Kenya mzima ni kwamba tushirikiane na serikali na tuweze kusupport ile program zote ambazo government inafanya. Hii system yenye tulilaunch hii ni kuhakikisha kwamba inasimamia usalama wetu. Kwa maana hakuna mtu ataweza kuiba pikipiki hapa Malindi ambapo ni Kilifi County aende nayo Busia na endelee kufanya kazi. Ikifika kule sisi tutaishika immediately na tuweze kurudishia mwenyewe, kwa sababu data itakuwa inasema pikipiki ni ya Malindi, Kilifi County.
Mubadi says his association would soon organize a national summit for female Boda riders to enhance their capacities and help them solve the myriads of problems affecting them as they go about their business.
Kama kuna ripoti yoyote yenye mtu wa boda anaona, kwa maana sisi ndio tunabeba watu wengi humu, tunajua mahali penye wanaenda, tukipata information tutaweza kuripoti kwa polisi na polisi waweze kuchukua action. So huo ushirikiano ni kitu mzuri sana ambapo serikali imejaribu kutuonyesha, na sisi tutarudisha mkono kwa kuwapatia ile information ambayo wanaweza taka.
Kwa hivyo tunaomba ushirikiano kati ya national government na county government ili tuweze kuweka usalama wa kutosha. Sisi ndio makazi yetu, sisi wana boda iwe ni salama.
He also called on police officers to cooperate with Boda operators to weed out underage school children who had ventured into the trade. Beatrice Gatonyingetich, Channel 1 News.
And still on COVID-19, Kericho County Government has received water storage tanks and hand washing facilities towards the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The equipment donated by Lake Victoria South Water Works Development Agency will be installed at strategic points within the county in efforts to encourage frequent hand washing. Speaking during the handing over of the equipment, the agency CEO George Odede said the tanks will be installed within 3 weeks. Odede also called on Kericho Water and Sanitation Company to deliberate on how to improve efficiency in provision of water services in the county.
With us in streamlining matters water and sewerage services. Today, we are marking yet another milestone as we receive 10 tanks of 10,000 litres each and another 8 hand-washing tanks, 230 litres each, courtesy of our guests.
Also our concern that once you receive this lot of support, you should find within your available budget minimal amounts that can help you to construct the base and install the tanks and facilitate refilling. And I believe that is a shared responsibility with Kiwasco. They can use BOSAS if the point at which you are taking these tanks is a little too far. But we also want to leave here with our confidence, Your Excellency, that within a period of between 2 to 3 weeks, these tanks will be serving the beneficiaries that are targeted.
Now, moving on, over 200 farmers in Langobaya area of Malindi sub-county are counting losses amounting to over 2 million shillings after the irrigation generators were destroyed. The farmers who are involved in irrigation projects along the river basin woke up to find their stores that houses generators reduced to ashes.
It was a rude shock for over 200 farmers in Langobaya area in Malindi sub-county after they woke up to the sight of generators used for irrigation on their farms destroyed. 7 houses, 6 generators, sprayer machines and fertilizer stocks reduced to ashes. Upon investigations, it was established that a neighbor's farmhand had conducted the raid.
Tunahangaika kwa sababu saa hii mimi sina mashini ile ambayo nilikuwa ninaitumia ndio hiyo imechomeka. Saa hii ni foleni, niangalie mwenzangu atamaliza saa ngapi ndio nami niweze kupata. Nasi tunalima mashamba makubwa maana mimi tayari zile zangu ambazo ninalima ni karibu zaidi ya ekari 3 zile. Nikikusanya zote nikiziweka mahali pamoja ni zaidi ya ekari 3.
Kwa hivyo ametuweka hasara ambayo tunaweza sema inaweza enda 2 point hapo milioni, kwa sababu hapa tunasomesha, tunakula, hospitalini ni hizi machine.
The arsonist claimed the generators that pumped water from the river to irrigate farms were associated with demons and that God has sent him to burn them.
Sikupata la kufanya, mmea yangu saa hii inakauka, sijapata mashine na hiyo ndio ilikuwa tegemeo langu kubwa. Shamba zangu mimi nalima karibia eka 3. So mashine 3 zilikuwa zinatosha kufanyia kazi, lakini saa hii sina hata moja, sina kufanyia kazi. Sina hata pesa ya kununua mbolea, sina pesa ya kununua dawa, nabaki na hangaika sana.
A 7th generator is still missing and is believed to have been thrown into the hippo and crocodile-infested river. The farmers want the government to help them with new generators as they cannot afford to buy new ones, especially when their fortunes have been badly battered by the coronavirus pandemic. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Staying on the topic of COVID-19, South Korea has extended social distancing rules in the capital Seoul amid a triple-digit rise in COVID-19 cases, while India reported another record jump in daily cases. Globally, more than 24.6 million people around the world have been diagnosed with the virus, while 17.1 million have recovered according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. More than 835,000 people have died from the disease.
South Korea has extended social distancing rules in the Seoul metropolitan area for 1 more week amid another triple-digit increase in daily coronavirus cases. The phase 2 restrictions, which ban gatherings of more than 50 people indoors, were due to expire this weekend. India, on the other hand, reported another record jump in daily cases, with New Delhi recording the world's highest single-day caseload since August 7th. Meanwhile, the number of coronavirus cases in Latin America surpassed 7 million as legislators in Argentina's capital passed a law allowing relatives to maintain a bedside vigil for patients dying of COVID-19. And the United States President Donald Trump has promised to crush the coronavirus pandemic with a vaccine by the end of the year as he accepted the Republican Party's presidential nomination for a second term. Havana's governor has in the meantime announced an overnight curfew and a ban on travel from the Cuban capital to other provinces and greater restrictions on the circulation of vehicles in a bid to curb a new peak in coronavirus cases. Australia's second most populous state, the epicenter of the country's latest COVID-19 outbreak, says it detected 113 new cases in the past 24 hours, a number that remained unchanged from the previous day. This as France recorded 6,111 new confirmed coronavirus infections over the past 24 hours, the highest level since lockdown ended and the second highest ever since March 30th. Meanwhile, the European Commission has signed a contract on behalf of the EU states with British drug maker AstraZeneca for the supply of at least 300 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine candidate. Elsewhere, Africa witnessed a 20% decrease in confirmed cases in the past week, with 23 out of the 54 countries reporting a sustained decrease in new cases in the past couple of weeks. The African continent has reported more than 1.2 million confirmed cases, with roughly half of the cases recorded in South Africa. For Channel 1 News, I'm Emily K. Bade.
And on matters business, Kenya Airways' financial turbulence is expected to deepen further, with revenue likely to drop by 70% this year. The national carrier has seen its half-year revenue slump 48% to 30.2 billion shillings on the back of COVID-19 pandemic.
Kenya Airways chairman Michael Joseph has said passenger numbers dropped by 55.5% to 1.1 million, in contrast with 2.4 million the same period last year, after the government closed the Kenyan airspace to curb the spread of the coronavirus. The carrier projects demand to remain at less than 50% of 2019 for the rest of the year. Joseph says the government is still keen on plans to rationalize the carrier, and talks are ongoing with the key shareholders, Air France KLM, who controls 7.7% of KQ's shares. KQ chief Alan Kilavuka has told investors that net loss for the 6 months ended June 2020 widened by 67% to 14.4 billion shillings. In the period, total revenues dipped by 48% to 30.2 billion shillings, in line with the fall in passenger numbers. Operating costs declined by 37% to 38.6 billion shillings, majorly driven by the reduced operations for the year. Kilavuka says operating expenses are expected to spike as the carrier implement various expensive measures to comply with the new health protocols issued by the government in July as part of the flight resumption measures. KQ plans to resume United States route in October and currently flies to Europe, Asia and more than 20 routes in its key markets of Africa.
And on a separate matter, Mary Dairy Cooperative Union has increased its farm gate price of raw milk by 2 shillings in efforts geared towards supporting dairy farmers who support milk to the factory. Now, the move follows a slump in demand due to COVID-19, which affected farmers' earnings. Going forward, the cooperative will be buying a litre of raw milk at 37 shillings, up from 35 shillings.
According to the union CEO Kenneth Gitonga, the union decided to increase the milk buying price from 35 shillings to 37 shillings per litre as a way of assisting the dairy farmers in the county who supply milk to the factory cope with the hardship of the COVID-19 and also enable them produce more milk.
Tumeongeza bei ya maziwa kutoka shilingi 35 mpaka shilingi 37 kuanzia next month. So hii ni kuweka wakulima wetu moral ama njundi, tuwaambia waweke bidii zaidi, watoe maziwa mingi. Kwa vile tumesikia Kenya maziwa hatuna stock ya kutosha. Wakati corona ilikuja, wakulima wengine walishindwa na farm zingine zimeenda chini.
Owing to COVID-19 disruptions, sale of milk has declined, exacerbated by the closure of learning institutions that provided a ready market for the commodity.
We have lost a number of markets we are not able to sell milk the way we were selling before, especially the school milk program of Meru County and Mombasa County, which was stopped because students are no longer in the school. But somehow we have been able to continue selling and supporting our farmers.
Dairy farmers want the government to lower the cost of farm inputs, including fodder, to boost output.
Let's look at the subsidies. Let us look at the feeds we are giving the farmers, and also manage the excesses and shortages of milk. When we have excess, let the government support in buying from farmers, and then we store, and then when there is a shortage, we release.
With the increase of milk buying prices to the farmers, it is expected that farmers will be able to produce more milk and counter milk deficiency. Elsewhere, 167 farming groups in various agricultural sectors have benefited from donations amounting to 130 million from the county government of Kiambu.
The objective is to increase agricultural productivity and profitability in selected counties for targeted beneficiaries. And in the county, we are in 5 sub-counties, that is Rari, Limuru, Kikuyu, Gatondo North, and Gatondo South. And we are working in 20 wards, that is 4 wards per sub-county. The project is being implemented along 4 value chains in the county. That is the 4 priority value chains that were selected. That is dairy, potato, that is Irish potato, chicken, and banana. And the value chains have been mapped into the various wards according to the performance in those wards.
Dubbed micro-project proposals to community development, the projects target dairy, banana, indigenous chicken, and Irish potato value chains.
Along the groups or the common interest groups, some are doing nutrition. So there are some groups that have been funded for nutrition. So it means it's also going to be a post-COVID recovery to assist in the post-COVID recovery.
Kiambu County is among 21 counties implementing the World Bank project, whose objective is to increase agricultural productivity across the country. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Horticulture exporters are warning that increased cargo charges by freight operators is likely to slow sector earnings in the second half of the year. Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya Chief Executive Officer Hosea Machuki adds that a tax on fresh produce by a fresh codling moth could also hurt earnings, which increased 5 billion shillings between January and June. The association has since engaged the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service to eradicate the pest.
Despite the effects of COVID-19 that have affected a majority of sectors, earnings from vegetable and fruit exports rose by 5 billion at the height of the pandemic in half year to June, from 76 billion recorded last year to 81 billion shillings. Fresh Produce Exporters Association of Kenya says that though the European Union was worse hit by the pandemic that led to a total lockdown, demand for vegetables and fruits was still high.
Last year it was about 76 billion between January and June. This year it's gone slightly up to 81 billion within the same period.
Though the association projects monthly earnings to rise to 15 billion by the end of September from the current average of 10 billion, invasion of farms by the fresh codling moth could hurt production, thereby affecting earnings.
The Kenya Flower Council, FPC Kenya, is working closely with CRIES, POWERPLAYS, and Calgary, and other partners that we work together to see how we can be able to provide more training to our people and encourage farms to lay more traps and manage farms using the false codling moth management protocol that we have developed as an industry, so that then we can be able to manage this pest.
With airlines recording losses as a result of reduced demand for air travel, freight charges, which have risen significantly, could also eat into the earnings.
At the moment, we are doing almost double of what we were paying before COVID, and this is extremely high. It's eating into all the profit, and we have put this before government because we have crafted a paper together with Kenya Airways how this is going to work, and we believe that is the way that will be much more practical to get the solution.
This comes as the Kenya Flower Council projects the floriculture sector to fully recover by mid-next year after demand in key markets shrunk due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Already, flower exports stand at 70% from a low of 30% at the height of the pandemic, which saw the collapse of the Dutch auction and lockdown in Europe.
And in the sports arena, Kakamega Homeboys head coach Nicola Muyoti has challenged former footballers to take up leadership opportunities in football. The former AFC Leopards midfielder is among those seeking elective positions in the upcoming Football Kenya Federation county elections that are set for September 19th.
Football Kenya Federation's Electoral Board late Thursday published the final list of delegates eligible to vote at the county and national levels, a day after concluding its county nomination exercise, with verification of papers submitted kicking off yesterday through to today. With increasing numbers of former footballers seeking leadership positions all over the world, Kakamega Homeboys head coach Nicholas Muyoti has urged former footballers here in Kenya to follow suit as they best understand the needs of footballers. The former Kenyan international, who has expressed interest in the FKF Busia County Branch Secretary position in the upcoming county elections, further reiterated his commitment to supporting youth structures in the region if elected.
I think first of all I can say they're doing a splendid job, especially from the time I came in. They've guided me well, I've cooperated, and I believe they've been very patient because up to now, before receiving all my papers, all my documentations, they've been very supportive. The fact that I'm here just tells you that they're going to deliver a free and fair election, because I think I believe in the process, and I believe it's gonna be done well and free and fair.
Muyoti led Homeboys to second position in the 2019-2020 Kenya Premier League season that was cut short by the COVID-19 pandemic, and now believes he has what it takes to lead Busia County if elected. County elections are set to be held on September 19th, while national elections shall be held on October 17th.
Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this afternoon. We shall be bringing you more reports in our subsequent bulletins, that is at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.ke. Remember to adhere to government's directive to curb the spread of coronavirus. My name is Jacky Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter was Simon Karutha. Well, have yourself a good afternoon.
Day's speech, we must not, as a people, succumb to the paralysis of constitutional rigidity. We must treat a constitution as a living being, as a living document that must constantly adjust to our emerging realities. In our past, all our constitutions have been what we may call ceasefire documents, agreements created to either dodge confrontation or avoid civil conflict. And indeed, if you do a textual reading of these constitutions, they represent a constant argument between the past and the present, and that is why I call them ceasefire documents. But 10 years after one of the most progressive constitutions, I believe the moment calls on us to do better. Instead of a ceasefire document that enforces a zero-sum game in which winner takes all and loser is expected to accept, the moment calls us to a new type. The moment calls us to create a constitutional order that will long endure and survive and not be conflict-stopping constitution, but rather a future-building document. And on this, I want to emphasize to all of us that we must not go down a path of populism today, but let us choose a bold path, a path that will assure each and every Kenyan, regardless of where they come from, their social background, their ethnic background, their religious background, assure every Kenyan of sustained peace, security, and shared economic responsibility.
Vera Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College, with branches in Nairobi, Eldoret,